Innovation Network, Patrick and Aragorn lead the way. Exploring tech's future, what will they say? Inspiring change with vision so bright, our hosts guide you through the future's light.
Interesting. For me, it gave me a complete map with everything on it.
Selling it for 35 million is a bargain. That must have been the worst negotiator ever. Pathetic that is.
Perceived as, but does it actually feel is a different question. That's, I think, what he means.
Good afternoon. Yes, I just got back this morning from Bulgaria, Sofia, for my keynote. Yeah, and I was on national television there as well. Or I don't know if I was. Maybe I will be on Sunday. I still need to check that. But I was in a talk show. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Was something like 60 minutes, but only for 20 minutes. What did you talk about? What is your topic?
120 minutes is a Bulgarian television program.
It's really 120 minutes, a long form thing. Did they speak that time with you?
No, thank God they didn't. No, the television program is called 120 Minutes. So it's 120 minutes. It's every Sunday, and it deals with news, social issues, cultural issues, etc. And it's a national television program in Bulgaria, and it's produced by BTV. And then Svetoslav, I hope I say this correctly, Svetoslav is the name of the presenter. Yeah. So I don't know. It's Svetoslav Ivanov. Yeah, it's going to be on television. I think it was either this Sunday or next Sunday. But as soon as I figure that out after this episode, I will obviously go and download or find the content and then share it if I can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have the first item for the newsletter already there. That would be a nice link. Hey, but dive in. Nice. Let's dive into some interesting topics that we marked down. Some news from OpenAI. Obviously, they released ChatGPT Search. Have you had a chance to play with it?
I've been using it. Yeah, actually, I've been using it quite a lot. I have to admit that now with advanced voice mode and the search, I have reverted to using ChatGPT a lot more. But well, actually, maybe I should be honest. I think that the main reason I've been using it more is because of the Windows 11 app. And I installed it both on my laptop and on my desktop. And that just makes it very convenient. That combined with the speed, I don't know what they did, but I have the significant feeling that the speed with which ChatGPT 4.0 responds to queries has gone up significantly. And if you combine that then with the search, that's also very nice because I still use a lot of Perplexity, but Perplexity takes a while to get to an answer. So if you're doing some really important researching and you want to get all the sources, there's a lot of reasons why Perplexity is still superior as a product. But if you just quickly want to get some data or a starting point, then ChatGPT feels really good to use right now.
Yeah. So what makes Perplexity still superior? Have they been doing this a little bit longer? Is it just V1 from what we now see from OpenAI? It looks very much a copycat from what we already know from Perplexity. I didn't really discover that much new stuff of how they approach it.
You mean for the ChatGPT search option?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a copycat. It's just a lot faster than it was. I mean, we did in the past have a search option, right? I mean, it used to use Bing, which was not very good. Yeah. But I think that Perplexity still really blows it out of the water in terms of UI. I mean, the Perplexity UI is just way superior still. And this has always been a weak point for ChatGPT, in my personal opinion. Because even now, if you use the advanced voice mode, if you look at this search I did, which is nothing important, I just looked for sunglasses similar to Ray-Ban Caravan, then you see there's a nice sources button, which is great, and it's quite a few sources. But the way all of this is presented to me is still not nearly as nice as Perplexity does it, obviously. Right? So it basically, when you use the search option, it actually just gives you search.
Yeah, I agree.
And the point there for me is that then what is the use of using ChatGPT? Because it will always be slower than a Google search.
So, no, exactly. I didn't see the immediate big benefit of this. And everybody is stating, well, OpenAI is going to rival Google and this is going to be the Google killer. But I think that if you go to Chrome and you type in @Gemini, you get exactly the same functionality as well. You can from Chrome just ask Gemini, and then you have the search query as well.
Yeah, and this morning I responded to, I think her name was Ellen Cornelissen. I'm not 100% certain on LinkedIn. And maybe some people will say again, Aragorn, why did you have to be so 2 legs straight in? I don't know if that's a weird Dutch translation. But
oops, you did it again?
Well, she did something that I see a lot of influencers. Well, actually, I've seen loads of influencers do it over the last year. She's just very late to the party, but she posted, yeah, I never use Google anymore. I just use Google ChatGPT search or Perplexity. And first of all, that's just nonsense. I mean, why would you don't need a bazooka to open a door, right? So why would you use ChatGPT search if all you need is just a website? I use Google all the time. If I just want to go to rayban.com or meta.com or whatever, any website, innovationnetwork.nl, I am not going to use ChatGPT for that. It makes no sense. And anybody that already effectively uses their browser and in Google has it that in the URL bar, in the address bar, you have search as well. So you're going to be using Google a lot still for everything that is a simple search. There's also personally, from a carbon footprint point of view, and I know that I always say like we shouldn't whine about AI power usage, but from a carbon footprint point of view, why do you want to use ChatGPT for something that you can do with the Google search in a fraction of a second? Yeah. But it just makes no sense. So influencers saying I don't use Google anymore, that's just a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah. What I did like about it, I played with different types of it. There's this integrated map functionality, which is pretty nice. Since you have your screen open, if you, for instance, do organize a bar tour in Amsterdam coming Friday, then you'll see it marks something nice. A little bit nicer than what Google does. I'm curious what he does now, because you didn't flag the search.
Yeah.
But this is also an interesting test. Do it with and without highlighting the search bar. Because I've been playing with it, what the difference is if you tag that or don't tag that. Because prior to this, it was also searching on the net.
This is just the old way it's always done it.
Exactly. Now the same question, but then with the search bar on.
There was absolutely no change.
Interesting. For me, it gave me a complete map with everything on it. There you go.
Okay, yeah. So here it basically coded, and it took put Google in there, and then it marked the places to go. Yeah, that's nice. And I would say that for this kind of thing, it's an improvement over, for example, Perplexity. But again, is this really an improvement over Google? I mean,
no, it isn't over Google. That was a discussion. It isn't. No, Google can do this too. If you do the exactly same thing with Gemini, you get the same kind of results.
Yeah. So all in all, if I feel that ChatGPT search is not really an improvement, it's also not really necessary 9 out of 10 times for anything you would like to do with a search. I much rather make use of the RAG, right? The retrieval augmented generation for fact checking so that the amount of hallucination is down. I think that's very important. But for search, I just don't see a scenario right now why I would abandon Google. I'm not saying that in the future it can't happen, but for now it just doesn't really make any sense to me.
No, I agree. And if you go to the announcement page of Google, they said they also closed a lot of deals with big publishers in order to get more news updates, stocks updates, sports updates, news updates, and maps. And I was also wondering why they need all these exclusive deals with these publishers about the news. What do you think that is? Is that a legal risk?
I think it might be that more than anything, to be honest.
Because they already give so much information on facts on the news, right? So the news itself, the happening, that's not copyrighted at all. So only the point of views that...
There was, of course, the case, I think, was it earlier this year or was it end of last year? I kind of lost track of time with the New York Times about their scraping of their news articles and websites. You know, it could have to do with that. I mean, technically, whatever they did for models previously in the scraping, you know, they might be mostly out of the woods on that. But I wouldn't be surprised if at least going forward towards the future, they kind of want to cover their bases because now everybody's way more focused on this, right? If they would continue the same kind of practices as before, it would definitely run into problems. So both from a PR point of view, trying to make themselves look good towards skeptics,
I think so.
As well as from a, you know, getting ahead of the game point of view, I think that might be worth it. But I think from a purely kind of consumer, what we get point of view, I don't think there's really much value there. I mean, let's be honest.
It's the same thing, right? As a matter of fact, I would appreciate more synthesis from a smart AI about collecting all these different articles and then giving some kind different opinion. If I just copy and paste something from the New York Times and then put it in there with a link and a source, then it is a little bit smarter search engine. But I thought the leap would be bigger there.
Yeah. I think something that might be interesting to go in deeper, maybe not right now, but at least mention it, is in Kai-Fu Lee's, and I've been skeptical of, or at least, I have my criticisms of AI 2041.
This is the book he's talking about.
Yeah. But in the final chapter, I think is it the final chapter?
I know what you're going to say. The final chapter is about the plenitude, the real abundance era, dreaming of...
I'm talking about the Isle of Happiness. I think that's the one before.
That's the one before.
The Isle of Happiness, they talk about this extra layer where AI is integrated to, and this is something that we've also discussed, at least I've discussed at length with Ryan Prakke in the past, which is one of our time travelers and ambassadors, is this kind of extra layer provided and created by and with AI, where you have an AI that knows everything about you, but it is responsible for maintaining all other connections to the outside world and to every other platform. So that not only allows you to kind of protect your privacy and no longer have to click, yes, I agree on these cookies, or no, and all of that stuff, but it would also, if done correctly, provide you with a kind of interoperability that allows you to be consistent as a digital persona online as well. And I think it's only once we get to that point that AI will truly start to replace a simple search engine for a simple task like that. I don't really see any real use cases in which it would completely do that prior to that, at least not in the current interface of ChatGPT, for example.
No.
Right? I mean, if you're integrating ChatGPT through API, that could be different, of course, right? If you integrate ChatGPT in, I don't know, something at work in an environment, and then it might be really handy that you have that search option available right there and then, rather than having to go separately to a browser. I don't know. I'm just...
Yeah.
But from my user point of view, I mean, look, me, we use it all day, all night, and I would still much rather just type some things into Google, because it's just going to be way faster.
Yeah, it's just another tool, indeed. So another small news item from OpenAI. They acquired a new URL, chat.com. So finally have somebody in marketing that makes a little bit sense in the naming conventions and URL naming. 35 million for it.
Yeah, I think
Do you know who owned it prior to this? From who they bought it? No. They bought it from HubSpot.
HubSpot?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, the CEO of HubSpot bought it for 50 million or something like that. It's something that I read online. Yeah,
that is really not good advertisement for HubSpot then, because HubSpot is a CRM. It's a sales icon, and selling it for 35 million is a bargain. That must have been the worst negotiator ever. I mean,
it's a bargain.
It's easily worth 300 million for what.
Here, hold your horses. Only 6 domain names have broken that price threshold. Cars.com was sold for the record price of 872 million. So indeed, it's a bargain.
There you go. It's a bloody bargain. Look, I have to admit, 2 years ago I said, and I think this had to do with, maybe it was that guy, but it had to do with URLs. Somebody posted online, I bought these URLs and I paid like 8,000 euros or whatever. And then I wrote, well, that's pretty useless, because ultimately within, 5 to 10 years, we won't even be using URLs anymore. And I maintain that. However, in this particular case, I still think it's a bargain, because this ChatGPT is here, OpenAI is here, and they want as many people to use their product as possible, right? So even in that short amount of time, even if they only have 5 years left until URLs become completely useless, then it'll still be worth that money. But I would say that 9 out of 10, don't buy any URLs in hopes of selling them in the future, because I think that's
maybe not anymore. Indeed, that business has gone.
Yeah.
So why does it matter? I think the step from searching Google, of course, and then getting a list of links to a condensed answer which Perplexity already did for quite some time. That is still a significant step forward, and we're going to see more of that. And I think that's the key takeaway here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I
Hey, talking about Google, have you seen the learning experiment? They have the URL is learning.google.com, and it's an experiment, but it's behind a VPN. And if I now switch my VPN, that is not gonna fly. So I made a screenshot of it.
We're doing this live, ladies and gentlemen. Just so you know, you're watching this. We're doing this live.
Absolutely. So this is basically, it's very interesting. So basically, you can ask it anything you would like to ask, obviously, but it then really like Perplexity, but doubles down a little bit on complexity. It opens a rabbit hole and gives you videos, narratives, Wikipedia links, and it looks pretty nice to learn more about it. So if I, for instance, say, why do shells sound like the sea? This is then the overview page that I get. Why it matters. Some more information, and you can continue the conversation chat-wise and learn more on a certain topic.
Yeah, so what I see...
I thought this was pretty interesting because this is just generic information, but always if people have trouble envisioning how AI can help you on your personal learning curve, if this knows exactly what your type of interest is and feeds you the right information on any question that you have that you want to dig deeper on, this is a nice view or experiment. What I don't understand is why it's not available for the rest of the world to experiment with it, and why it's also separate from Google.
Well, I get the feeling I get here combining signals from Google is that they are basically experimenting with the format in which they present the output of their AI. So this is just the same Gemini, right, that you use when you just talk to Gemini. It's the same Gemini that's being used in the Notebook LM, but it's just presented differently. And I think that probably has to do, and that might also be why it's only limited availability. Google is probably just experimenting with, okay, how do we get people to engage with this AI better? Because we need to onboard people faster to bring this product to profitability. And if I combine that with Google's long history of trying stuff and then deleting it, right, and then discontinuing it, which they are famous for, then I also would already say, be careful, because I wouldn't be surprised if products like this, they will come and they will go very rapidly. Notebook LM was a success. It will probably stay. But again, even that depends on whether the use is there. Because if people stop using Notebook LM, right? I mean, everybody loved it, but who's still using it daily? I guarantee you, if people are not daily using Notebook LM a month from now, then 2 months or 3 months from now, Google would just, we discontinued it.
No, but that's also a good thing, right? If you want to do innovation, all these experimentations, trying it out, see if it works, and failing fast before you put it in your major product is what Google is very good at with all these experimentation labs across the world. Yep. And that's what a lot of organizations can learn from as well, to do that.
Yeah, they definitely good at failing fast. Although sometimes I think they fail because they try something, but they didn't really make an effort to do it really well, which is sometimes a bit of a shame.
Yes,
I think some of the products that they came up with in the past were really amazing, but they just failed in the execution and then discontinued. They've also made like a gazillion chat apps, right? And then had them all running at the same time. So nobody knew what to use. Yeah, okay. But I agree.
Hey, so let's move on to the next topic. You shared an interesting robot from NVIDIA Hoover. Let me put it up here.
Yeah. So what you're seeing here isn't really... Well, what you're really seeing here is that NVIDIA is expanding their Omniverse with, improved features, I guess. Right? So this is called Hoover, but from what I understand, it can basically be used as a feature to Omniverse, right? So Omniverse is the virtual kind of industrial metaverse that NVIDIA uses. And they have, what's it called? Groot. So Groot is a plugin, add-on kind of platform inside Omniverse that allows you to train robots and to control robots and all of that in the virtual space. So this is basically a very smart way of them to upscale the speed at which you can train robots, because they allow you to, I don't know the exact numbers, but you can basically run 1,000 robots at the same time to do an exercise. And in that way, and then speeding it up, you can train, a robot to do 1,000,000 hours of something, practice something in a fraction of the time.
Yeah, you should put them in a virtual bar and you just simulate any possible scenario of picking a glass, dropping a glass, holding it left, right, tapping a beer, and all these the things are trained just in a matter of an hour, and then the robot knows exactly how to learn that. It's a little bit like Neo learned jiu-jitsu in the Matrix, right? But for people, it's extremely difficult, but for robots, it's exactly that, and it only takes an hour to train it, something like that.
Yeah. I like the Neo reference, although, well, Neo basically trained on his own, and he trained for a lot of hours, but he trained at multiple times. I think he trained at a higher speed, while he was doing way more in the same amount of time. But but
Hoover, hey, it's just here, right? It's the worst it's ever gonna be, or not?
It's the worst it's ever gonna be. Yeah, and I think that is very, in that sense, it's very relevant. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think maybe there's one more thing to say about it. Another thing that robots are strong, or at least AIs have been struggling with, is to understand physics. Yeah,
exactly.
And there is, of course, limitations to what they can learn from physics in a virtual environment, because we don't even fully understand physics, right? We still don't know how to combine, quantum theory or the macro with the micro, etc. But we can pretty accurately simulate a lot of physics, right? So having a robot, for example, train, how to pick up an apple in a virtual space, it can learn a lot about those physics, and therefore it can much quicker learn how to operate in the real world. And I think that is a really, really important and significant advantage in, for example, how fast we will see the rollout of household robots.
Yeah, and also we see that NVIDIA is ahead of the curve again, because this entire platform is being used by all the robots that we have on this show, from Optimus to what have we, Neo, etc., etc. They're all part of it, and they're all being trained with this same system, right? Yeah. And it's also the way to quickly get them on the street and behave like humans.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you? Right. I see you got that other link in there. This was also something that I really loved. I'll quickly share it, then I'll have to
figure it out.
Lucas Ziegler. So this just goes to show how fast progress is right now.
This is fun one, right?
So I haven't fact checked this. Is this robot actually autonomously doing this, or is this
no?
Human?
I heard it was controlled by a human outside. But the fun thing is, that's still remarkable.
Yeah.
If I can control a robot from a distance to behave like that.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. So I was already. I kind of suspected that, but I wasn't 100% sure. But I'm happy you checked it. Yeah. But you were so right. It is super impressive. But it's such an interesting thing, right? Because the world is talking about autonomous robots, the bar is already there. Autonomous robots. We want autonomous robots. So now whenever somebody shows something which is, by all means extraordinary, so a humanoid robot that can be controlled from the outside by a human to almost act like a human, we're already like, oh, that is not special. It's a human controlling it. It's like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, well, there's a group of people that indeed react like this, but I still think that many people do not get what's about to happen in robotics, because everybody that has learned robotics, for instance, this microphone that's on an arm here, if that would be a robot arm, you have to program it to take 1, 2, or 3 steps to move in and out, and then it can take the same motion. These type of robots with Hoover and with Isaac and Omniverse are learning basically to see where my face is, to understand what motion that I need, and then act autonomously towards that, like the agents are doing now as well. And the fact that is becoming quickly visible on the street, that's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. What do you have there?
Well, I wanted to give you
the surrogates.
I wanted to give you some nice B-roll with the surrogates movie trailer. Yeah, because this is really, because this is what we're looking at. Right? We got Neuralink, who can give us a brain implant and let you control your computer with that. And we got robots that can be humanoid in form and shape. Like, how far do you think this is away? If this is 10 years away, I think it's far.
Well, even if it's very far, like 20 years away, that's still scary close by, and that's pretty far out, right?
Yeah, we're gonna see within the next 20 years. We're going to see this type of stuff roll out, where people are at home with a VR headset from Meta, tactile controls, and they have a surrogate robot running around in the real world Because look at, I don't know if you have followed remote controlled cars in the last few years, but that has also gone to a completely different level. And FPV drones, first person view drones, like all of that is all of these technologies are developing at the same time, and they all coalescing in this. And maybe we won't have it like Bruce Lee. What did you want to say?
No. I continue and then I'll jump in.
Maybe it won't initially be like Bruce Willis right here, like replacing yourself at work with a robot, but imagine, for example, Elon Musk, he wants to go to Mars, right?
Yeah.
Imagine him building Tesla robots, right? Then they fly to Mars in the next few years. So they bring a remote control hub. And instead of the astronauts having to go outside in a suit, which is very risky, even on Mars, even with a great suit, with everything that comes with it, now they can have that as a plan B. Because instead, they send 10 Tesla Optimus robots with replacement parts. Okay, fine. They can even send those ahead because they can launch them separately, right? Then all they need to bring is a control module. They land the control modules, and the astronauts literally sit in the control module, and they just remote control the robots outside, and they build the Mars base. This is 15 years tops. I'm telling you right now, 15 years.
It's not that weird, right? At this point in time, neurosurgeons from one part of the world can already control and do an operation on the other side of the world. So controlling a robot like that with VR goggles or something like that is not that far out. And that's, by the way, also one of the scenarios in the book of Kai-Fu Lee, right? The scenario where the race car driver from Sri Lanka is controlling some of autonomous cars that are in super dangerous situations and so out of the model behavior that they have to be controlled by a human. So the autonomous cars are 99.9, but if it gets to a certain escalation, then the human driver takes over with a VR set.
Yeah, you feel what's coming now, right?
Yeah. And what I wanted to say is, it's a little bit further in our planning to talk about it, but while we're at it, the book tip for this week is Reality Plus from David Chalmers. Wow, we're on the topic of virtual reality anyway, so now we'll continue the conversation in that. So you have read it some time ago. I just recently read it. But what do you think of the book, or why do you think people should read it?
Okay, you're going a little bit too fast for me because I still wanted to say something about the Holy Driver. Can we go back a little bit? Yeah. So the Holy Driver, yes, Kai-Fu Lee talks about the technology for remote controlling machinery through super advanced virtual reality. And yes, I also 100% believe that within the next 20 years, we'll have that. In fact, I think we'll get there in 10 years, at least some really usable basic form. But in the Holy Driver, and this is just the one comment I want to make. In the Holy Driver, Kai-Fu Lee is guilty of human exceptionalism because the whole story is around how when it gets complicated, the AI cannot do it and the humans need to take over. People, if you're listening to this video, podcast, reading our newsletter, forget about it. Forget about it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, the hard stuff will not be what humans do. The humans will only do the stupid stuff. I hate to say it. I hate to break it to you, but the only humans that will be doing really hard stuff are the humans that will be augmented cyborgs with cybernetics, right? So this idea that the human takes over because AI cannot handle it, it's just simply not true. And we've already seen that because in the years since the book was released, and now we already seen that AI is doing a lot of tasks that are actually super complicated, and the whole idea switched there. So that's all I wanted to say. David Chalmers.
Oh, very good, very good addition. I completely agree with you. It's really funny that a human comes to rescue. That is still what we need in these types of books.
Yeah, I don't blame Kai-Fu Lee. I think
as a matter of fact, it was not Kai-Fu Lee who wrote that. It's a science fiction story where that human is saving the day.
Yeah, but they wrote that together. I mean, if Kai-Fu Lee was in disagreement with that, he would have said, sorry, man, we can't go with this story. You have to change that. So he approved that. He is with that. And if you listen to the rest of his narrative, it is very clear that he is very often very guilty of which is already being shown to be simply incorrect, the cognitive bias of human exceptionalism, thinking that he also, for example, in the last chapters, he says AI will never be able to be more empathetic than a human. Well, we already know that that's nonsense because AI has already proven in several papers now when it communicates with humans that it will be perceived as way more emphatic than
perceived as, but does it actually feel is a different question. That's, I think, what he means.
But does that matter? Because that is then my next question. Does it matter?
Oh, what
I
a
don't
great
know.
bridge to reality plus, because if you have a virtual object, is it real or not? Does it really matter? That's the whole premise of the book, right? If the virtual reality is so real that you cannot distinguish it from not being not from reality, then it is real, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Wow, that is a bridge. I didn't even see it coming. You completely well done, Patrick. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No.
Honestly, I mean, we can't even be sure, right? And this is what David, of course, explores in the book. And so I want to say this book is not for everybody, right?
No, it's not for everybody. No,
this
is a very deep one. This is a deep
it's
one.
a very deep one, and it explores concepts like how do you know that the reality that you experience isn't just an illusion, right? How do you know that it's not just? How do you know that you're not the only real brain, and that everybody you encounter is just an imagination or things like that, right? And this is just the simple stuff. I mean, we haven't even touching on the really deep stuff because, quite frankly, it's a little too complicated to just repeat it like this, even if you understand it when you read it yourself. So, but I personally think that it does matter, the basics of it, because I think that it doesn't matter if an AI can or cannot feel if I perceive that it's being more empathetic than a human. And this is an important conversation, for example, because we now see these conversations rising, like, should we be okay with humans having relationships with AI, right? Because with character AI, that already happened. And my answer is no, we shouldn't care unless it gets in the way of our humanity or if it causes, moral or ethical issues.
So for all I care, you have been a robot all the time. I wouldn't know, right? That's basically what he's saying.
Exactly. If I were to tell you right now, oh, sorry, Patrick, man, I'm an AI and I've been forever. What does that change?
Yeah.
What does it really change?
Yeah, it's profound to think of it. And like you said, it's good to repeat that. If you're interested in philosophy and viewing that from a philosopher of today, because most of the philosophers talk about reality, but not with the knowledge that we have today about AI, metaverses, VR. David Chalmers has extensive knowledge of all these tools and then applies it on Plato, applies it on Descartes, on all these different philosophers, and takes all these perspectives and philosophies through the lens of the metaverse and VR. It's a very interesting book, but it takes some time to get through. But nonetheless, I think it's a very good read for most of the people that view our newsletter.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you want to broaden your perspective on what reality really is, David Chalmers,
Reality
as
Plus,
the title says, Reality Plus.
Yeah. And it's a gateway drug because he talks a lot about Nick Bostrom and superintelligence, which is then, if you like this, that should be the next book you read.
Yeah. Bostrom is an interesting guy as well. He is, of course, talking about this, how do you call it? The simulation hypothesis. Yeah. Shall we go on to back to the agenda? Oh, this is what I wanted to show you. This is also something that you definitely have an opinion on. Like I told you so. CEO of Google says 25 of code has been generated by AI now, today, right? Yeah. This is interesting.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say about this anymore. I mean,
I thought you would say something about the law of accelerating returns or something like that.
But people have pointed out to me lately that I've been too vocal with my I told you so's. And I was kind of feeling that, it's not a good look to always be like, I told you so. Nobody likes the I told you so guy. So
No. But this was just joking, Aragorn. And I think this is a great example exactly of the law of accelerating returns, because the same alpha engine is now also creating the chips. So the chips from Google and the code from Google are created by AI for a significant motion, which will only accelerate the speed of development and the power of the chips going further. More productivity, more efficiency. And what I liked in the article is that they write about the fact that for developers, overseeing code and validating that code and thinking it through in ethical way is becoming more relevant than writing it. That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. On the note of the law of accelerating returns and AI technology accelerating progress, you just showed that Google is already doing 25% of its code with AI, right? So that's one example. This is another example, right? SpaceX is far ahead, right? SpaceX is far ahead in space exploration. And for a while there, it really looked quite ridiculous how far ahead they are, right? And honestly, when I read the media and I read that the European Space Agency is still developing their own rocket, that the NASA is still developing their own rocket, and they're literally developing rockets that are, even when they're done, which they're not, they would be 10, 15 years behind technologically from SpaceX, then I really wonder to myself, why are we doing this? This is a massive waste of money and resources. These people should be ashamed of themselves. Ashamed, right? And then you see this. Now, Elon's method has always been, we just fire as many rockets as we possibly can. We blow up 90% and then we make progress, which I like. And it's also a lot of fun. But here's another LOR, right? LOAR, Law of Accelerating Returns. AI generated rocket in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from the first attempt, and it's already blowing shit out of the water. And what I think is perhaps the coolest about it is look at how it looks, because in none of the articles I read, anybody really commented on this, but look at how it looks.
It looks like a trumpet.
It looks.
Well,
looks
that's in the.
It looks organic.
Yeah.
It looks like a kind of organic technology. This does not look like what a human would design when they're building a rocket engine. Not to me. And I know that this is not a professional opinion or anything like that, but I get some serious science fiction vibes here from Solarpunk, kind of AI helping humanity to develop better technologies. And it's already doing incredible. So this is just another great example of what we're going to see in the next few years, right?
Yeah.
AI is going to revolutionize so many things.
Let me show you another cool stuff that I bumped into, and it took a long time before I saw this coming. Being available via Google. I think it was about 10 to 15 years ago when we were in Paris. And if I go to Paris or everywhere else, I always go to museum, right? And you get this shitty kind of headset with a very limited, you have a number, you type a number, and you get a small narrative about it. And I always thought, so why is it not via Google available for everything in the city? Like if you walk around in Paris, the whole city is a museum. Now check this out. I finally got it. Also, it's still an experiment, but not from another department. It's the art and culture department. It's interesting because it's a Google Map feature, which is not being released on Google Maps, but you can do an audio tour. So where do you want to go? Landmarks, cultural institutions, archaeology. Let's do cultural institutions. And let's see what we have here.
This is very cool.
Let's go to where this should be. Here we go. Mona, the lilies. And then we have audio. Snapshot for audio.
Okay, so and the idea is
AI integrated to talk to it. But that's what you want, right? This is what you want when you have the AR glasses on top of you, and you should have all the data and the different narratives about stories and layers when you walk around in a city like Paris.
Yeah. No, yeah, 100%. And this is going to be massive, of course. But Google has a really good infrastructure platform for that already, right? With their 3D geo tiles, which did not integrate AI previously when I last looked at that. But it makes total sense for me that that's going to be hooked up to their Google Gemini and then possibly to something like this. I think this just highlights the importance of interoperability going forward, right? Interoperability was always something that we would want for the internet, for it to develop further and become better. But up until now, it was, I mean, the things you could do with interoperability were nice, but they weren't, how do you say this? A necessity. But for this kind of thing to work, it becomes a necessity. Right? You can't really have these kind of things exist in a vacuum. It's one thing to sit behind your computer with an address bar in the URL and you kind of, browse. But if you're walking around the street, you can't go and look for shit on the internet, right? You want to come into a room and you basically want your AI assistant through interoperability without sharing all of your private data to kind of handshake with the room and then say, okay, we're here. I saw this QR code on the wall. Poop. We're already in the app. You only have to say yes or no to accept it, and you can then continue with your tour. Bob. And for that to work, you need interoperability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've come to the end of everything that we had for this newsletter, Aragorn.
Really, you need to go to the puppy. Man, I was just getting started.
I need to go to my new puppy called Jimmy. Indeed. Let's see how he's doing. Yeah.
Did you also get, what is this? You called it recently. What did you call the Sony dog?
The Aibo.
The IBO, yeah. You should get...
Well, I really considered buying an IBO because I wanted to play with it. But, it's very expensive. It costs 3,500. Still, exactly.
Yeah, but maybe it's because it's so old that it's so expensive.
Yeah, it's a must-have gadget. I don't think it's upgraded that much. I thought, well, maybe it's way cooler now, but it isn't, yeah. One more thing we shouldn't forget. 9th of December.
Yeah, okay. Well, before we do that, I was going to say, if I ever become a millionaire, then I'm going to buy myself an IBO, an original. The thing's so cool. And connected to that, another book tip. It's not the official one, but what's it called? God, Animal, Man, Machine? God, Man, Machine,
from
Animal.
O'Brien, and she uses the story about the dog very well and the affection that you would have for a robot that is that simple. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So if you want to explore kind of the relationship between man or humanity and machine, then that is a very good book. Megan O'Gillen.
Last but not least, 9th of December in Amsterdam, Design Thinking Center is our next meetup. It's almost full, so take your last seat. Links are in the email, and see you there in real life.
Absolutely, yeah. 9th of December. We're past 50 tickets sold, and officially I think we're only allowed to have 60 people in there. So we're on the last 10, so better hurry up. Cool. And
see you later, folks.
That's it for now. Oh, yeah, and before you leave, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment to this YouTube video if you see it, and help us get more views and make sure that our content reaches more people.
Do that. See you later.
Bye.